Hello, ladies and gentlemen, this is Dmitriy Balkovskiy of the Reactionary blog with the blog number 1. Today we'll talk about gold and its role and status in Russia, and I mean gold bullion. First of all, if you are reading alternative media, if you're following gold bug publications, you're probably aware of the fact that the Russian government is buying gold in very large amounts and doing it on a regular basis. There is also a lot of chatter on how Russia is on the very brink of introducing gold ruble, which would destroy the American empire, fractional reserve banking, and the Rothschilds and everything, and as a pleasant aside, will make all the bullion dealers and gold bloggers of this world multimillionaires overnight. It seems to me that Western gold bloggers have too much enthusiasm regarding the Russian government, and a lot of this enthusiasm is misplaced, to be honest. Is the situation really that rosy and straightforward? Does the Russian government really express a direct wish to establish a gold ruble system? Not really. And let us begin with a piece of good news, and it comes to us every 18th or 19th day of the month, and we're looking right now at the Gold Miners Herald. It is an official publication of part of the Prime agency, which is a primary Russian news agency, and it says here in these indecipherable Russian Cyrillic letters, Bank of Russia bought 274 tons of gold in 2018, and further we read that as of January 1st, 2019, the official reserves of Bank of Russia equal to 2,111.93 tons, so almost 2,112 tons. And in December 2018, Bank of Russia bought 9.3 tons of monetary gold. So this is good news. Russia has the 5th largest gold reserve in the world after the USA, Germany, Italy, and France. This is pretty much all as far as good news are concerned, and I'm a bullion dealer in Moscow. So I know a thing or two about Russian bullion markets, so let us get down to bad news. First of all, at the end of November, Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev signed a decree designating scrap gold and semi-finished gold products such as gold ore and gold concentrates and gold powder strategic resources. So the illegal trafficking of these substances is now a felony punished by up to 12 years in jail and by fines of up to 1 million rubles, which is about $17,000. So there you have it. New restrictions, new punishments, new laws restricting gold market. Second, there is very little discussion about gold in higher governmental circles, really. A good example of it is a recent statement by Alexei Kudrin, who is a former finance minister, and now he is the head of Federal Budget Office, who stated that it will not be plausible to get away from US dollar as an accounting unit, as a unit of payment in international trade for Russia, because currencies of Russia and members of the Eurasian Economic Union are still very unstable and unreliable. And of course, not a single word was said about gold, which is quite normal for Kudrin. He compared gold standard to horse and buggy in a 2015 documentary which was shown on the Russian state television. And now the news number 3. On November 16th in Moscow at Arbat Hall, there took place 11th International Forum titled Russian Bullion Market, and it was organized by the National Financial Association. And here you see the participants. The main theme of the conference was VAT on bullion and its possible abolition. Now, I must inform you that in Russia, all bullion, silver, gold, palladium and platinum is subject to a VAT tax, and it will rise to 20% from January 1st. Only coins are not subject to this tax, and there are other additional restrictions on bullion transfers in Russia. Only banks with a precious metals license are allowed to sell and buy bullion bars. By law, you cannot sell a bullion bar even to your own mother. And there are still special regulations governing proper transportation of bars. The violation of these laws are still punishable by jail time, even though these are one of those old Soviet laws that are not really enforced, but they're still in the books. So the situation is quite gold unfriendly. And now back to the conference. There were no bullion dealers at this conference because we're just too small and insignificant in industry to be represented. But there were Bank of Russia people, there were bankers, gold miners, parliamentary deputies and state officials. The conference was split into two camps. One pro-VAT abolition and the other one slightly mildly against VAT abolition. Among the abolitionists was a lady from the World Gold Council, Tatiana Fitz, and she said the following about the situation, and I quote, "According to polls, 60% of Russians trust gold more than foreign currencies, and among those who would want to invest in gold, the majority pointed VAT as the main hurdle." This is a very telling piece of stats, and I will explain why. To use an analogy, the situation here reminds me of an ever-shifting commitment to daily exercise. You do know that is a good and proper thing to do, but you just never seem to get started. The same thing can be said about Russians' desire to buy gold. Russians are set in the old ways. They're used to buying and holding foreign currency, and the old habits really die hard. And it really has nothing to do with VAT, because bullion coins are VAT free, as I said before, and there is a small but very vibrant and growing market for buying and selling. It can be easily done in Moscow and other big cities. So Russians are still captivated by the Western might. The West doesn't look as shiny as it used to look 30 years ago, but still there is a perception of prosperity, even though this prosperity is visibly fading, and the Russians are still sticking to their old ways. I will talk more about Russia's view of the West in my later issues. It is a very interesting topic, and I'm pretty sure that Westerners are really not aware of the way Russians view the rest of the world. And powers that be are not helping the situation either. Among the mild againsters at the conference was a youngish bureaucrat named Alexei Leshenko with an FSB background. He is a Duma or parliamentary deputy and a member of the Committee of Finance. And I quote, and this quote is very telling, "There are no definite numbers as to how much funds derived from VAT on physical gold are directed into the federal budget. There is no united stance in the Ministry of Finance either. And how much will we lose if we abolish VAT? No data. Now, this statement is completely ridiculous, and the guy is completely incompetent, because the statement is just plain wrong. And I'll tell you why. There was a deputy minister of finance by the name of Alexei Moiseyev at this conference, and he informed the journalists that all gold VAT received by the state is being reimbursed back to payers within 3 months. The Duma guy also expressed concern that the missing VAT will negatively influence defense spending and spending on social services, which is also quite funny sounding, because I remember that in 2016 or 15 I saw stats estimating the entire haul of gold VAT for the year at about 100 million rubles, which is around the 1.5 million US dollars, which is a ridiculously small amount. On the one hand, we see new restrictions on precious metals. On the other, they're constantly showing an infographic about Russian and foreign gold reserve on Russian state TV. So there is this duality, this lack of certainty, and state officials do not know anything about this market, and they do not want to know, unfortunately. Yet there is a truly revolutionary and simple plan for monetization of silver ruble, authored by Hugo Salinas Price, an internationally known and respected gold and silver theorist who made public proposals at different venues in Russia regarding this monetization plan, but it hasn't attracted much interest, really. The plan is very simple. Russian state mint begins producing silver coins with no monetary value, weighing 1/2 of an ounce, or 15.55 grams. It will be minted in half ounces, so ordinary Russians will be able to buy it. It will be relatively cheap. It will have no monetary value, because coins with monetary value need to be reminted constantly because of the change in the price of silver. Leaving monetary value aside will allow us to avoid this difficulty, this hindrance. So ordinary Russians would finally get an answer to that eternal question which is troubling everyone in this country, has been troubling everyone in this country for the past 25 years. When do I buy and when do I sell dollar? Dollars are not used as much as they used to be. They're mostly used for savings now. But still, people do hold paper dollars, and this new Russian ruble will allow them to transfer to a much more reliable and independent currency. This silver savings coin will also solve another problem. There is a constant threat of foreign direct investment withdrawal from Russia, and pooling these coins and using them for infrastructure projects or other long-term enterprises will give Russia more freedom from foreign interference, more independence, and more prosperity. So it is an excellent plan, and I placed a link to an English version of it in the description of this video.
And I also decided to show you several interesting pieces by Hugo Salinas Price. This first here is an interview he did with me 2 years ago, titled "Putin Should Introduce Silver Ruble, Restore Monarchy." So you can find it on my website, just Google it. It's goldenfront.ru, just Google the title. Another very interesting feature is his silver ruble monetization plan for Russia, which is published in Russian and in English. You will probably read it in English. It's on Hugo Salinas' website, and here is the title, and it's very long, so it's going to take up a little bit of your time, but I think it's worth it. And here is another interesting feature. It's Hugo Salinas' Price presentation at the Russian embassy on June 28th, 2017. And that's your humble servant here. I was at that conference as well, so. So this is it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. I apologize for my accent. If I mispronounced something, my apologies. I hope you liked it. Please like us, subscribe, and this was Dmitriy Balkovskiy. Thank you for watching.